Okay, everyone, welcome home. Welcome home, y'all, as we normally say. This is a very, very serious day. There's we're having on those every single day, in a very serious and treacherous time. I want to open today's show with a very important historical clip, because I think it provides context for where we are. Let's roll it.
The most disrespected person in America is the black woman. The most unprotected person in America is the black woman. The most neglected person in America is the black woman. That if the white man will do whatever is necessary to see that his woman gets respect and protection, then you and I will never be recognized as men until we stand up like men.
And that is just it. What is required of men in this hour to stand up for the most disrespected person in America? And so I think where we have to really begin today is, this question. I was flagged earlier that Stephen A. Smith put our podcast on his, talking about where we discussed his critique of Jasmine Crocket, Congresswoman Jasmine Crocket. And on this special episode of his podcast, he says, I want people to say I disagree with you, and here's why. He resents the fact that people challenged his critique of Jasmine as disrespectful. It sounded like he resented the fact that people thought his challenge sounded in some way misogynistic. And so where that leaves us is trying to understand why there may be a road where we are missing each other, where the positions are not quite aligned. And so, where I want to lean in is first on facts. When Congresswoman Jasmine Crocket was just on with us just weeks ago, prior to the government shutdown, right before that vote, Congresswoman Jasmine Crocket talked about having to go in special entrances when she's going to public events, having to go get fitted for a bulletproof vest. I talked about that on our main episode this week, and I want to draw your attention back to it because of what Malcolm X told us, which is the black woman is the most unprotected person in America. So to me, if someone is getting death threats, if someone is championing the voices of the people, those who can't say the thing that needs to be said. One of the things that you all said to me often when I saw you, like, I love seeing you on CNN, or I love seeing you on MSNBC, or I love seeing you on Native Land Pod. You speak for me. And when these voices, not just mine, not just Jasmine's, but Joy and Tiff and Sunny and Aaron Haynes and Brittany Pagnett Cunningham and Jamel and Carrie, when those voices raise up and they speak on behalf of someone who feels marginalized, unheard, and invisible, those become the voices that we seek to for comfort because they're saying something in spaces where we've not been invited to or have not been allowed to speak our truth. 9 times out of 10, Black women sit in spaces in corporate America where their voices cannot speak truth to power because they could risk losing their jobs. 9 times out of 10, when Black women are hired to work for the federal government or the state government or county or local government in some other form, they cannot use their voices to speak truth to power for the risk of losing their jobs. That's something that we know to be true. Yet every now and then, someone decides that their truth being spoken is so important that it is worth risking the opportunity and perhaps even risking their lives. And that's where we find ourselves now. Like, there are Black women who are saying, I'll catch the case, or I will catch the heat, or I'll deal with the punishment. It'll mean that I won't be in a leadership position, Jasmine Crocket, right? It'll mean that I might get demoted, but my truth deserves to have a platform because our lives are on the line. So when your opponent is someone who will say low IQ such and such, which is how y'all's commander in chief, y'all's president chooses to address not just Black women, but Black people, you have an obligation to continue to speak truth to power, even when he basically is calling you dumb. And that is something that we don't take lightly. It's something that we commend. It's something that we deem as courageous. And that is why Jasmine Crockett's approval numbers right now rival only Barack Obama's at his height. It's because she's speaking truth to power. Now, there are some things that I wish my dear sister didn't say. I wish she didn't call the commander in chief out of his name. I call him y'all's president. But I understand that is a tactic, and more than y'all agree with her, then agree with me. And I understand because we're watching this man terrorize the country, and she is one of the lone soldiers who continues to speak up and say what is wrong, to call a thing a thing. This is not some random hood rat chick, as someone have you to believe, on their platforms, using language that is not only dangerous, but involves racist tropes. This is someone who has a law degree. She's a former civil rights attorney. This is someone who was a state representative. This is someone who, when Texas looked for folks to hold the line last time, folks needed to leave the state to ensure that the Texas Republicans did not pass legislation that was antithetical to our interests. She is that person. She is that person. She is the one who is introducing legislation to ensure that our needs are protected. She has introduced several bills in Congress. One that I regularly tout, that I'm so proud of her for doing, is called the Clear ID Act. The Clear ID Act would hold to account the law enforcement that are going into our communities right now, terrorizing our citizens, and they're doing it masked. There was a time where this country honored legislation that was passed to force the Ku Klux Klan to identify themselves. Now, right in time for this terroristic activity, under the guise of state sanctioned violence, really, they're now able to be masked again. So that is what we're up against. So again, Jasmine Crockett is a sitting member of Congress. She is one that does not just speak about her work, but she is regularly booked because she cuts through, because she speaks for people who have been marginalized and left out, because she is a fighter for those who don't have any fight left in them. She is someone who not only speaks on air when invited, she also goes to committee hearings and to markups, and she provides amendments to bills. She introduces those amendments. She argues them in committee markups. Committee markups is where legislation goes to be negotiated and amended before it goes to the House floor. She does that work. We watch her do that work. That work also goes viral. She does it in committee hearings where she's challenging the nonsense that is spewed to her across from a witness table where people have been sworn under oath. Jasmine holds them accountable too. So I resent the fact that she's being talked about as someone who's just showing up for a show. This is someone who is working very hard to get the needs of the American people's interests met and those of her district. And now, speaking of her district, did you know that the Republican state legislature created a district map for Jasmine Crockett's district where they carved her house where she resides out of her district? Does that sound like a group of people who want to work with her? Would you work with someone who is calling you out of your name and calling you low IQ? Would you work with someone who has people in the House of Representatives who are making fun of your appearance in Congress? That is actually how we got to beach blonde, bad built butch body, because bleach blonde, I can't even say it without messing up. All the bees talked about her eyelashes first in a congressional hearing. Oversight and government reform. Look it up, right? So I just want us to be very clear about the challenges ahead and the fact that, yes, the most disrespected and unprotected person in this country is the Black woman. And so, pardon me for having expectations, right? That a Black man would protect a Black woman, at least. I mean, that's how things used to be. But pardon me for expecting that, right? Like, how dare I expect that? I expect that you know that what Republicans spew on Fox News and in all of their rags would not be the facts. I would expect that you would know that just because a Black woman is tried and gone after and pursued and maybe even hunted down like it's been since 1619, that maybe that's not all the facts. So I'm going to turn your attention to another disrespected Black woman. Her name is Fani Willis. Fani Willis is currently is in the fight of her life for just saying to the American people, listen, Donald Trump engaged in election interference, charged him as such. Then it became that her character was on the line. Now, the Department of Justice, Donald Trump's Department of Justice issued a subpoena for records related to Fani Wallace's travel history. If this is not selective prosecution, you all should know this from watching our podcast when Marilyn Mosby was targeted through selective and malicious prosecution means. I don't know what is. This is textbook. This is someone who he sees as a political adversary, someone who he sees as someone who targeted him, even if the target was rooted in a factual challenge of a clear violation of the law. This is someone who he has made out to be a political enemy, right? It's not just, we don't just end with Jasmine Crocket. And as JD Vance just went after Joy Reid just a week or so ago, we don't have to just end there, or with Fani Willis. Let me turn your attention to Lisa Cook. Lisa Cook, the first Black woman to ever serve on the board of governors for the Federal Reserve. Oh, she was targeted because a Black woman has the nerve to buy a house. And child, not just one. She has the nerve to want to have two. She had the nerve to want to have multiple properties. Having done all of this with her career, wanted to have multiple properties. And so they go with a solution in search of a problem to try to target Lisa Cook because Lisa Cook hasn't been a rubber stamp for Donald Trump, right? So they go after Lisa Cook. And right now, the only thing keeping Lisa Cook in her job is the fact that the Supreme Court blocked Donald Trump's attempt to fire her, which he does not have the authority to do. And now they are just temporarily blocking it, and they plan to hear oral arguments in the case involving the unlawful firing of Lisa Cook in January. So she's got a temporary reprieve. We don't know how long the Supreme Court is going to act, right? Come on, y'all know better than that. And then let me take you to Tish James. For those of you who might have missed it, she is the New York State Attorney General. She is the person who ensured that Donald Trump, given the fraud and the fraudulent activity that he engages in through the Trump organization, actually finally faced a consequence since the Supreme Court decided to give Donald Trump federal or criminal immunity. A president doesn't just have civil immunity now, they have criminal immunity thanks to the Supreme Court's lack of knowledge around the Constitution and what actually should be protected. It shouldn't be criminal behavior. You take an oath, sir. But fine, they give him criminal immunity. And now that means that every case that he was facing before the Supreme Court ruled, they just said, oh, you know what? Maybe we just got to let it go because these activities happened either when he was president or before. So we're going to release all of it. This man who's currently sitting in the White House, allegedly and with great regularity, violating the emoluments clause, taking gifts from foreign countries and foreign adversaries. But this person is the same one who wants to come at yet another Black woman for having the nerve to want to buy multiple properties. Black woman buys house, Black woman commits fraud. We've seen that playbook before. We saw it with Marilyn Mosby. This is the same thing they did. Mind you, Marilyn Mosby's mortgage fraud allegation and charge and her case around the mortgage fraud charge was thrown out on appeal. And here we are again with a paper thin indictment of Tish James for buying a home where her niece in Norfolk, Virginia could stay. Now, Tish James's case, again, this is the New York State's Attorney General. You would think that folks who are watching someone weaponize their power to target their political enemies, you would think that there would be agreement, maybe not bipartisan agreement, there has been some, but you would think that at least for elected officials in New York, at least for elected officials in New York, that there would be agreement, widespread agreement, just on that point. Just on that point. Let's roll this clip with Andrew Cuomo.
Should the president have gone after Tish James?
Well, my point is, and I think this is nearly uniform, both sides, Democrats and Republicans, believe there's too much politics in the justice system.
Yeah, this is what your statement said yesterday, but should the president have gone after the attorney general? Was he right to do that?
Well, he would say he didn't go after her. The prosecutor will say they were just doing justice, which is what Tish James said about going after President Trump. I'm just pursuing justice. That's why it's political.
But what do you say?
Neither side should be playing politics.
Yeah, your opponent was out there this morning saying that you won't condemn the president in any sort of way because you have the same donors. And in this conversation, it doesn't sound like you think that he was wrong in this situation of going after the attorney general. What do you say to Mr. Mamdani, who came out this morning and said you won't speak out against the president?
We have the same donors. The president was from New York. I am a lifelong New Yorker, right? There are people who know the president. There are people who know me. There are people who contributed to the president, contributed to me.
If you won't condemn the president here in this situation, how can a New Yorker believe you'll actually stand up to him?
Well, he's not likely to stand up to him, but here's what we also know. He's not going to stand up for justice. There are folks in the comments saying justice for Tish James. We stand with Tish James. And I think our harsh reality is if you can't stand on facts and stand on the business of the facts and stand on the business of justice, you should not be in any elected office, let alone trying to represent the city where this Black woman, where she comes out of, and she has been one of the chief protectors of democracy and justice by trying this case against Donald Trump. One of the only successful cases against Donald Trump, yielding a 368, I believe it was $368 million fine for the fraudulent acts taken by the Trump organization, with interest by the time it went to appeal over 500 million. And the thing that we have to understand in this environment is, given that it's now on appeal, it's not necessarily thrown out, but it's sure tougher to move forward with a verdict and a judgment that is actionable, because people are so afraid of trying a Donald Trump and calling him to the carpet. So she got a verdict. She beat Donald Trump. Based on that case alone, Donald Trump and his organization are fraud. But guess who's not? Tish James. Tish James is doing what so many Black people have done. Our communities have often been groomed to take care of one another, to take care of our family members. And that is what Tish James is being accused of. She's being accused of buying a house, buy another house. So the case was so flimsy the first time that Donald Trump's I'm sorry, that the case went forth. He was trying to push forth with in the Eastern District of Virginia. The U.S. attorney there was Eric S. Siebert, and Eric Siebert said, "You know what? There's no there. We cannot try this case, friend. We're not going to be able to do it." So what does Donald Trump go do? Just like he's done with many of his cabinet positions, many of his cabinet secretaries who are DEI in that they didn't earn it. Not diversity, equity, inclusion. It's a very white cabinet. Y'all can go run tell that and check it. It's very true. I believe the only person who is Black in his cabinet is the HUD secretary. So Eric Siebert says, "Nah, bro, I ain't gonna be able to do it." He replaces Eric Siebert with Lindsey Halligan. Lindsey Halligan has no prosecutorial experience. No prosecutorial experience whatsoever. Instead, Lindsey is an insurance lawyer. And what is, I think, most bizarre about this particular case is that they are hinging an intent to commit fraud based on a form. And what we know about these forms is that people regularly make mistakes on these forms. If in fact there were any mistakes made on the forms, we shall see. They are charging her with lying and bank fraud. They have to prove an intent to deceive, and I think they're going to struggle to do exactly that. So let me just remind you, for the record, we have Donald Trump with 34 felonies where he was convicted. Remember, he was charged with 89. 3 were dropped. Um, I believe it. Or was it 88? Either 88 felonies, 3 were dropped. It was 91. 91 felonies charges to 88 felony charges, 34 counts where he was convicted. Guess how many Tish has? 0. So Donald Trump, 34 felonies, Tish James, 0. I think that's important to understand because, again, I want to draw us back to the fact that it was a Black woman who bought a house. Marilyn Mosby was a Black woman who bought a house. Lisa Cook is a Black woman who bought a house. We can't have multiple properties. We can't pursue the American dream. When we do, it's fraudulent. It's inherently violent and criminal. We are, and I'm saying these are, they did not commit any acts of violence or engage in even any physical, self-defense practices. But I'm saying it because this is an age-old story that Black people are inherently violent and criminal. That is what I want to focus us on here. Because if there was ever a time for Black men, for Black women, for Black people, for all of our allies to stand together, it is now. There are folks right now in Chicago who are being arrested, zip tied, handcuffed. No questions about their citizenship. We told y'all this was going to happen. We're watching this happen every single day. And we told you all that there would not be a distinction. Brothers, he gonna come for you too. You gonna be on the wrong side of the truth at some point. He's already come for some of our folks. He came for Leonard. He called Leonard low IQ. He's called Don low IQ, right? This is someone who engages in textbook discrimination. There's a thread circulating right now, a political article about young Republicans and all of the racist, white supremacists, and Hitler fangirling language in a text exchange on an app called Telegram. This is what young white Republican males are talking about. So if you're not in it to win it with us, you on the wrong side of history, Playboy. That's just what it is. So that is where I wanted to be today. We have some comments. Somebody says, why hasn't someone filed a complaint with the Bar Association against Bondi, who has clearly violated all conditions of standing to maintain her license? I agree. I've actually raised this same thing that folks should start filing bar complaints against these frivolous actions taken, as well as the selective prosecution that is coming down from this administration. That goes for James Comey. I would love to talk to James Comey. I'm still mad at him from 2016, but he don't deserve what's happening right now. So James Comey, Tish James, Lisa Cook, these are all people who he's targeted because he felt like they were on the wrong side of him. If you don't bend the knee, if you don't bow down, if you don't kiss the ring, this is what you're up against. We know what time it is. The question is, do you? And if you don't know what time it is, what is it going to take for you to wake up? So, I just want to come here to the comments really quick, just to see if there's anything else here. Y'all got a lot of love today. I'm grateful. And we definitely want to answer any questions. When are we going to be solution oriented? I love this question. I love to hear your solutions. I think that many of us are being solutions oriented. We just talked about a bar complaint strategy. We talked about ways that people can push back against this onslaught of violent rhetoric, violent action, the death threats that ensue. and the ways in which they're coming after people's career. We know right now that more than 300,000 Black women, I think it's probably double that, are out of the workforce since this man became president. The way for us to respond is to hire one another, to look for contracting opportunities for each other. We haven't even talked about on this show yet the Department of Transportation issuing a regulation in the still of night saying that they are changing the disadvantaged business enterprise program. They are no longer going to consider race or gender. What do you think is going to happen to the businesses that disproportionately hire our people? If there was ever a time for us to come together and fight back against this nonsense, this craziness, the type of oppression that our folks clawed their way out of, if there was ever a time to do that, it is right now. It's not tomorrow. It's not waiting for permission. Y'all, we got to get on board all together. That is what this moment requires. And so I implore us all, right? If we got fights to have as a people, let's call each other. Let's text. Let's try to figure out whatever the solution is on the back end. If you want information about someone's accomplishments, what they do, how they roll, and how they protect us and the legacy they're building, let's have that conversation offline. We ain't got to have family business in public. We ain't got to do that. I'm down and staying ready to be available to anyone that wants to have that conversation. Whether it's about my girl Jasmine, my mentor Maxine Waters, Tish James, Marilyn Mosby, whoever it is, like, let's go. Let's talk about it. The brothers, too. It's brothers who being attacked as well. But what we shouldn't do is attack one another and do the enemy's work for them. That's what we shouldn't do. How does NLP feel about No Kings event? Go forth, friends. Go forth. I think you go wherever you feel called. Let's see. What can we do to continue to support her? I love it. What can we do to continue to support her or Marilyn? I think in order to continue to support Tish James, there's a bunch you can do. There's a letter that her attorney, Abby Lowell, wrote in April. There's another one that he wrote to Ed Martin, August 18th, that they're all for public consumption. There are also articles being written about her case so that you understand what she's up against, which isn't much. Her case is actually before Judge Jamar Walker, who is a Biden appointee in the Eastern District of Virginia, and is a 39-year-old brother. And I think that he's going to see the facts of the case and realize that there are none, and hopefully the case will be thrown out. It is selective prosecution. It is malicious prosecution. I actually hope that Attorney General Tish James will sue them for malicious prosecution, which is a civil cause of action. With Marilyn Mosby, I think stay informed about where she is in the case around appeal. We want that sister to be able to practice. She's actively engaged in state of the people work with me. She's powerful. She's incredible. She is dope. And she's doing the Lord's work and always has been. Somebody said Tish is about to be convicted. Stop it. You stop it, friend. You have no facts. What else? Yeah, I think that's it. We've been rolling deep for about 30 minutes. As you all know, we record our show on Wednesdays, our main episode, and then our mini pod. So our main episode will drop Thursday. Same bad time, same bad station here on YouTube and on iHeart, wherever you get your podcast. We also will drop our mini pod on Friday around the same time. If you guys have any thoughts or feedback, let's keep the conversation going. How should Black men and Black women be engaging in this conversation right now, especially when we're at war on every side? We shouldn't be at war with each other. We certainly should be protecting each other. And if we don't have all the facts, we have an obligation to get to know them, especially when they are so scarce in this moment. So I appreciate you all's time. It was heavy on my heart to talk about the least protected person in America. They are my dear sisters, and I urge you all to read about them. And when you are comfortable after reading all those facts, stand with them because they are fighting the good fight. We all deserve to be fought for. Let's join in the fight and not watch them idly as they fight on our behalf. I appreciate y'all so much. This is my SoloPod. I'm Angela Rye, and I will see you very soon. Welcome home, y'all. Native Land Pod is a production of iHeartRadio in partnership with Reason Choice Media. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.